Man, I don't even know what you're talking about in the chat there, Marcus. But yeah, I just got back from San Diego Comic-Con. It was a very fun show. Unlike a few of my friends, I've come back perfectly healthy, so that's a positive sign. I hope those of you who I got to hang out with got home safe and sound and well as can be. But it's good to be back. As everybody knows, San Diego is a long trip, but we had a lot of interesting conversations. I got to do that panel with some of my friends, and we had a really good time. But am I still on Cali time? I am not. I took 2 naps today, though, so I am raring to go. So we've got collector Steve Mussolino, who will be our guest tonight. Steve's been, I think, a member of CAF for around 7 or 8 years and has a very focused collection. I kind of wrote in our show description his path to collecting, and is the way he kind of focuses in on certain things. And so I think we're gonna have an interesting conversation, a little bit different than we've had in the past. So let me bring Steve in and get this thing going. Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. That's a majestic fireplace you have behind you.
Yes, it is. Thank you. It's 9 o'clock, and my wife usually goes to bed early, so this is the only place other than the basement that I can kind of hunker down and kind of put on my soft voice.
Understood. Yeah, my wife, Maureen will be in bed by 10. She doesn't, but she's a light sleeper, so I'm relegated to kind of the office outside of the house. So I totally understand that. But yeah, we were just talking earlier. You've been to San Diego a few times, but it's been a while since you've gone. What was you went not as you went as a collector though, right? I mean, did you buy artwork when you would go in the past?
I never bought anything. I went probably before I started collecting art, before I knew you could even buy art, oddly enough. And so I've never walked away from San Diego with any kind of art, sadly. And, my first time was 10, 11 years ago. So it would have been a choice time in terms of just prices and where things are now versus 10 years ago. But I guess you can say that at any given point in time.
Very, very true. So when you were going, you were just going as a fan, just wanting to see and experience the whole San Diego Comic-Con life?
Yeah. I went to New York City Comic-Con when I was in high school, and even went to local conventions up and down Route 10 in New Jersey, looking for comic books. But I liked Artist Alley. I would watch artists, doing their commissions. Again, never really saw any art you could actually buy. So I'm kind of regretting never running into anyone or seeing a booth where, that spark could have been lit way earlier. But San Diego was just one of those bucket list things. And even then, I didn't really care about Hall H. My first time there, I spent the majority of my time at Walt Simonson's table, just listening to him tell stories, kind of marveling at the fact that everyone's in Hall H because there's a Thor movie out, but here's the guy that's responsible for everything you guys are cheering about in there, and you should really be out here with him and not in there. But, the thing with San Diego is there's something for everyone.
Very, very true. So if you weren't picking up art then, when did you start collecting art? Because like I said, I think you've been on CAF for about 7 years. When was that?
Probably.
When did you first encounter OA that you knew you wanted to buy?
I didn't know you could buy art until Sean Murphy on Twitter. I got back into comic books mostly because the New 52 Capullo Batman. I bought comic books, read comic books as a kid, kind of stopped in the 90s because they got too expensive and I just wasn't into it anymore. Got back into it because of Capullo and Snyder. Loved Snyder's writing, and then just Googled like what else is out there that he's done, and came across The Wake. The Wake led me to kind of start following people like Sean Murphy on Twitter, and he just posted something about like an art sale. His rep at the time, Jason at Essential Sequential, had a bunch of stuff. He was kind of promoting that he needed to raise some cash and had a sale. So lo and behold, Jason his offices were like 5 minutes from my work. So I went and got the white glove treatment. He had all these portfolios out, and I got to look at all this art, and that's when it all started. So the odd thing is, as
John Gordon Murphy pool, that's like
yeah,
That's a great place to start, though. You know, I'm a big fan of Sean's work too.
100%. I kind of lucked into that. I could have obviously stepped into something else, but I love Sean's work, and I guess it'll be evident in what we look at later on. Sorry.
So, you know, Sean's work is very distinctive, but you were a fan
Right.
of comics before then. I mean, who before Sean as an artist, you know, really, you know, intrigued you, or you know, did you like just because of their art, or you pick up a comic just because of their art? I mean, Simonson clearly, but who
Yeah.
else?
Norm Brayfogle, loved his work. Jim Lee, obviously. Who else? Art Adams. I mostly just read for the stories. The artists, like, I didn't realize that I had so much Capullo because his signature changed until well after the fact. And I started going through my collection. I'm like, oh my God, he did the New Universe stuff for Marvel, and he did X Factor, and I'm like, and his styles changed over the years. So it's like, as a kid, I was never into like the artist. I was more into the characters and the stories. So I guess I paid attention more to the writers than I did the actual artists, because the artists I felt like were more interchangeable.
That's yeah. Well, I get it. I mean, I was a comic book fan before then, but I don't know. The art was always kind of like, for me, I would buy a book sometimes just because of the artist. You know, I'd buy a DC book if John Byrne was drawing it, right?
Right.
So, but I think a lot of, you know, collectors come at it from that angle, right? I mean, they didn't. Well, I got to ask. So you're living so close to, you know, Essential Sequential and Jason. I mean, was that the only trip you made where he was able to like spread out portfolios and you could see things outside of con? No.
No. I visited him quite often before COVID. The last time I got to pay him a visit was right before COVID, but he was selling his house and moving, not too far. And we kind of left it that once he was situated, he'd invite me over to check out the new larger space. But then obviously COVID happened. But I had many a visit and many an interesting conversation. A lot of the things that I still hold on to in terms of philosophy and collecting, he kind of imparted in my first visit, because it was kind of weird. I walked in, he was so generous and nice with his time, offered me a beer. I'm like, this guy's too nice. This is Jersey and this guy's too nice. There's something going on here. But no, he's just a nice guy.
So how many pieces of art did you pick up on that first trip?
Oddly enough, I actually went there looking for an Amy Reeder Rocket Girl. I wasn't willing to really pay a lot of money just yet. And I was thinking I'd spend $300. And he showed me a bunch of things. He showed me one of her covers that kind of was on hold, but not really. And all of a sudden, and that cover was maybe $2,000. And suddenly I'm thinking, instead of 300, 2,000. So we left it that if that cover didn't sell, it was mine. And he let me know a few days later that it was gone. So now all of a sudden I'm thinking not in hundreds, but in thousands. And I went back with the idea of spending more. And I picked up 3 pieces that were all from Tokyo Ghost from Sean Murphy. I will say that I had been collecting wine, and I was auctioning off my wine collection. So I kind of had cash just kind of sitting there. So I wasn't, it wasn't sticker shock so much, because I just had cash coming in from all these wine sales.
Not bad. That's not too bad. But that first trip then showed you that if you delay, you may not walk away with what you want, right? So that would be the other lesson that Jason imparted on you, was don't take your time, because a lot of times you'll end up with nothing. So did you ever get anything by Amy though?
I did. We're going to look at something. I'll tell the story when we get to it, but it took me a long while. She's in New York, and she posted a few times that she had art classes at her studio. So I kind of went to those and got to hang out and talk to her a bunch of times and kind of bug her incessantly about one specific piece that she eventually relented on.
You wore her down.
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Politely pestered. I like to say, politely pestered.
So after your, the initial experience buying from Jason and getting some Sean Gordon Murphy art, where did you go from there? I mean, did you just stay focused on Sean for a while, or did you kind of branch out a bit?
Kind of stayed focused on Sean for a good long while. Didn't really. I watched the heritage auctions, trying to just kind of gauge where my tastes were, what I wanted to focus on. I kind of equate comic art collecting, original art collecting, to wine collecting, in the sense that everyone starts kind of with a broad net and probably starts on the lower price points with, convention, con sketches or commissions, and then eventually you kind of get into the published, and maybe you go with a panel page, and eventually you're buying splash pages and covers and things. But everyone, and that journey I equated to wine collecting, because everyone starts kind of like with that $10 bottle and has a price point of 10 to 13 bucks. But then when it's all said and done, everyone kind of funnels into the Barolos and the Brunellos of the world, and now all of a sudden you're spending $300 for a bottle instead of $30 for a bottle. So that kind of, I equated that to the art side of things, because wherever you might start your journey, you end up with like Kirby's and Ditkos and things. So I wanted to skip the early part and avoid the sketches and things, and go straight to like the things that I thought were high quality.
Oh, that's interesting. But I guess so the wine kind of I don't know, primed you for skipping that. When I started collecting, I was more of a convention sketch commission collector, and the published stuff didn't interest me as much. I don't really know why. I think I like talking to the artists more. I don't think I was thinking about price, because I'd go and spend $700 or $800 before, like 98, buying artwork, and it wasn't the cost. It was just more I guess I was thinking, the experience. I mean, I can't really say, but once I started picking up published art, it hooked me. That's for
Right.
sure.
Which is not to say I didn't get commissions, because in high school I would go to New York City Comic Con, again, not knowing you could buy original art, and I would just loiter around like Michael Linsner's table and just get commissions or con sketches of Dawn. So I had a couple of those. I had an Art Adams Colossus, just kind of like a head, a bust that he did for like $20 or something. So, but once I started thinking of it as a collection and a hobby, I somehow equated it to wine and skipped straight to the published stuff, which is another thing Jason kind of said from the get-go. He's like, stick to published pieces, which I've kind of adhered to all these years.
They will hold their value a bit better than commissions and that sort of thing. Jason, yeah. When we talked about Amy, Jason approved your technique of wearing the artist down a little bit, it's not even that. It's continuing to express your interest in a piece.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
politely finding your moment to step in once more and say, "Hey, remember me? Can I have that now?"
Mm-hmm. Well, so I saw it. Yeah, Mikhail says I'm a Boone's guy. No, I'm not, Mikhail, but I'm still probably in the $20 to $30 bottle of wine. I've never been a wine guy. I love beer, love craft brews, and so wine always tended to give me a headache. I don't know why. Probably because I was drinking the $15 to $20 bottles of wine, right?
Yeah. You need the non-sulfite wines, the good stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't drink IPAs either. I think they're high in sulfates. Those give me headaches too. Just drinking one. So, all right. So maybe I should branch out at some point and at least spend $50 to $100 on a bottle of wine, and then I'll know that I can't go back after that.
Right.
So during this period, early period. Now, of course, you mentioned you're buying stuff through Jason, Sean Gordon Murphy, Amy Reeder, a few others, and then the pandemic hits, and you can't go to cons anymore. I mean, were you, right. What was your MO at that point? I mean, had you met a lot of collectors prior to the pandemic that you had friends in the hobby already outside of the people you were buying from?
That's a great question. I definitely have, a WhatsApp list of folks that I'm constantly talking to, and some of them are here now. Um, but before the pandemic, not really. I would go to like the New Jersey con that Jason mentioned, but I wouldn't interact with anyone just because I don't know. I feel like I'm intruding. So uh, the first real connection was with Sideshow Bob.
Hmm.
Met him at one of Sean's things at New York City Comic Con, and he was again super nice. Hung out afterwards. He invited us to the bar, got us all around to drinks, talked about the hobby. And he was another one that kind of imparted wisdom and talked about how in the beginning, when you're collecting, you cast a wide net and eventually you find your focus and you start to kind of prune your collection down to what you want to really focus on. And that resonated with me and reinforced what I had already thought. And so I probably screwed up in hindsight, because if I'd cast a wide net and just bought everything I saw with all that wine money that was coming in, I could have, turned around today and sold it to buy all those Watchmen pages that I really want. But I wasn't smart enough to do that. So I've always kind of maintained that focus, I think maybe to my detriment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think new collectors who don't create, at least get in, have a few friends in the hobby. Those experiences, like going to Comic Art Con, can feel a little intimidating, right? Because everybody in the room seems to know one another. And,
Oh, yeah.
and I remember my early days in the hobby. That was, one of the things that made me the most uncomfortable. But I wanted to be there, so I'd go anyway. But I wouldn't necessarily talk to anybody either. I mean, that's how CAF was born. At the end of the day, it was just, I'm going to figure a way to make everybody have to get to know who I am without being outgoing or wedging myself into conversations. Yeah.
And now we all come to you every every
Who would
Tuesday.
have guessed?
Yeah, you're a smart man.
So do you know Jason D'Ambrosio?
Sure. I
Yeah,
ran into him at the Menon convention last month. I was walking out, he was walking in.
Aha. Yes. So did you know him because of his many experiences on the channel? I mean, he's a very distinctive look to that man.
Yes, there is. That plus I've seen, I've been following his X-Men journey when he, I think, maybe first posted on CGC. So I marvel at his collection, and just not only the quality, but just the vastness. It's like depth and breadth. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And I didn't tell you, but on the right-hand side of the screen, click on the comments button.
I'm there.
Oh, you're on there. Good. Because we never use the private chat. That way, I forgot to tell you that before the show got started. But what is this? Yeah, but a lot of people feel that way. I see number one Marvel fans mentioning that they went through cons for 25 years feeling the same way, right? And it's a challenge because in our hobby it is pretty small and everybody does really know one another. So when you walk into a small show like Comic Art Con, yeah, I'd say there's not too many strangers in the room, and those who are, you're right. Everybody's looking at you like, who's this guy?
Right.
It's true. At the end of the day, is he a buyer? Is he a seller? Is he carrying a portfolio? Everybody, they're sizing you up, trying to figure out, how you fit in with the group. Sorry, I'm just reading through. So, Batman statue collector says fairly new to the hobby, has some Finch, Bermejo, Jim Lee, Clay Mann pieces. Any advice for a newer collector in comic art? That's I'd sound like Nick Perucci if I give you the standard advice, right? It's always buy something you enjoy, because even if you overpay a little bit, it's you're still going to have something you appreciate. That's the main thing. Until you can really get around and look at auction results and see what dealers have for sale and get a good gauge for what prices are on the things that you think you want to collect. I think as long as you buy stuff you like, you're doing okay. But it's always good to do research. I mean, what would you say, Steve? Because you're relatively new.
I agree 100%. Don't look at it in terms of an investment. Look at it as a piece of art that you're going to love, and don't really buy thinking you can flip it. Otherwise, you're most likely buying it for the wrong reason. If you love it, then you can't overpay, really. And if you think about it in terms of a 5-year kind of down the line, you can always, in theory, recoup your money. But I try not to think in those terms.
Yeah, that's true. And if you look at, I mean, I didn't highlight the comment, but they mentioned Finch, Bermejo, Lee, Clayman. I mean, if you're picking up even one or two of those pieces, those are all pieces by artists whose work pretty much keeps its value over time, or will increase in value over time. So those are pretty good artists to be picking up artwork from. That's always a plus, right?
Right.
As collectors, a lot of us who've been around for a long time, one of our focuses tend to be on, we're looking for artists that maybe aren't known yet, right? So you can get some really great artwork for a little less, before they kind of get an agent that increases their prices, or they catch on that their artwork probably should be priced higher. I think there's a lot of collectors out there who kind of follow that mindset. So that's different than what Batman statue collectors do, of course, but that's an approach that a lot of collectors use as well.
I don't think you can go wrong as long as you're buying what you love. And to answer Eric's question, no, there is no one. I have 3 bottles of Rothschild that I'm going to hold for maybe another 20 years, because in theory they'll hypothetically be worth like 20 grand each one day someday.
How old are they now?
They are 2003s, and the maturity is like a 50-year window. So they're comparable to like a 1980 vintage, which last time I looked went for like 18 grand, 19 grand.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So one day I'll be able to flip them for art.
That's not a bad thing at all. I mean, the way art prices are going up, that would be a good war chest to put around to picking up some pieces that you like.
I'd probably do better if I just went with NVIDIA stock, but that's what it is.
Yeah, I didn't own a lot, but back in the day, it was like 12 or 13 years ago. I was like, I'm going to put money in gaming related stocks, right? So I put some money into Sony and EA, NVIDIA, and I can't remember like there's like 4 or 5. But the funny thing was at that point in time, I held them for like 3 years. The only stock that didn't go up was NVIDIA, so I sold it. And, it's like really disappointed. I was like, I can't believe it. I thought for sure that one. I was trying to buy some more tech related stuff rather than just game publishers. And boy, was I wrong, because after that, the game stocks that did go up, crashed, because they were making money on phone apps and things. And then NVIDIA goes crazy. So yeah, live and learn. It's just like
on a long enough timeline, you can be both right and wrong, sadly.
Mm-hmm. Right. It was a little bit before my time. What Carl said, buy art because you love it, not because someone else is celebrating it. Yeah, that's true. But sometimes when people are celebrating pieces they collect, that we see pop up on CAF, it does turn us on to, other artists and whatnot. And I mean, I've discovered a lot of artists just by people I follow on CAF, and see the pieces that they collect. There's a couple of fellow collectors whose pieces that they pick up, I always have to check out, whether, just to see whom the artists are, because they're usually picking up people that I've never heard of. And it's always cool, to kind of discover new artists. And for me, CAF and following it, like 5 or 6 guys that are collecting always is I learn a lot.
I learn more from CAF than I do in the local comic shop, because quite frankly, every time I go there with the intention to buy something, I look at a $5 price point on a brand new comic, and I can't make myself do it anymore. I'll just wait for the trade, because $5 a book is crazy.
Yeah. When you're growing up on 25, 35, 60-cent comic books, it is tough to spend $5 on a book. I typically wait for the trades these days as well. I went out and picked up some of the those Ghost Machine books by Brian Hitch, because I was curious, but that were new, and that was the first books that I picked up in a long time that weren't trades. I was never that curious. I figured I can wait.
Right. The only book that I will shell out money for if it came out tomorrow is the Black Monday Murders. Love that book.
Very, cool. Oh, Eric is in the chat. Hey, Eric. Good to see, Mr. The Art Adams collector on CAF. So everybody, like you were saying, you picked up a lot of pieces by Sean. I mean, you can tell a lot about a collector based on what their focus is, right? You got Sting right here in the chat. I think we know what he likes to collect, right? If you go to his CAF gallery, you're going to see a lot of Stingray, even though there's not a lot of Stingray out there. That's one of the fun things too. I remember we once had Scott Wingo on, and I never thought about it but he said, I can go to a person's CAF. Say if I get a message from somebody and I want to learn a bit about them, I go to their home, their main page on CAF, and he had like a kind of a methodology for understanding the art collector based on the pieces they chose to feature, the way they chose to organize their art. And I was in that conversation, I was just like, wow, I never thought about it like that. But I've employed that same logic, when I go and
Sure.
Check out a person's CAF galleries, these days, just because, I mean, you do learn a lot about them. And
you ever watch Iron Chef, the original back in the day? It always started with that quote. I forget by who, but it's something like, "Tell me what you eat and I'll tell you who you are." So,
I like that. No, I don't think I actually saw the Iron Chef. I mean, I'm sure I've seen some episodes, but I don't remember that. That's funny though, but it's so true.
Sure. Yeah.
Sorry, I saw Jason saying, I guess, are you going to be going to the Comic Art Con this weekend?
I'm going to try. It's my birthday on Friday, so there's things going on, but if I can steal some time, I'll definitely try.
That's so there you go, Jason. You can maybe you might see him, but it's his birthday, so just remember that.
Yeah.
Be kind. But so, since that time though, I mean, have you bought from some of the dealers who would regularly exhibit at Comic Art Con, Albert Moy, or
never had the pleasure. Tried to give Albert my money a couple times, but just can't make it work out. Purchased from Quan at New York City Comic Con in 2019. And then the rest is directly from artists or eBay, I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, especially your focus, right? I mean, I can't say that a lot of like Sean's work. I mean, after he wasn't working with Jason, he had his own big cartel website. I mean, even though he had an agent, he was really, at least I think, selling a lot of that stuff himself.
Sure.
Capullo has always sold, I mean, direct. So it does seem like you target artists who kind of have an independent streak in them to a certain degree, where you would be buying from them, and their artwork isn't held by, art dealers too often, right? So Berkey, Anthony, like Glenn, Will, Hans. I'm thinking of anybody else who might be at Comic Art Con, Bashara. Those guys aren't going to typically have the art that you're looking for, right? I mean, because you're stick more like last 15 years kind of range, right? You don't really go into the silver, bronze age or
no, not at all. I'm an 80s kid, so
nothing wrong with that. I get it. Anthony is too intimidating, says Marcus. No, I don't think so.
Hey, I visit their booths. I always look. Just nothing really catches my eye. I bought something from Ramita Man right before COVID, and then subsequently sold it on Comic Link. But other than that, nothing online from actual reps or dealers, which isn't something that I'm actively consciously doing.
Well, you go where the art is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we talked about those first pieces that you bought from Jason, from Sean. I mean, do you still have that artwork? Because you just mentioned selling stuff. So you tend to, do you sell a lot, or do you kind of keep most of the things that you buy?
I keep most of the things that I buy. I sold 3 pieces of Sean's, 2 because I was working on a Born Again page deal that kind of fell through, and I prematurely sold some stuff that I regret, but it is what it is. And then I sold 1 just because it was time and I needed some things done around the house.
Well,
I go with the Walt Simonson philosophy where he sold one piece early on and said he didn't have the piece, then he spent the money, he didn't have the money, and that was the last time he sold the piece. So
Yep, that sounds like Walt.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw there's not enough art out there by Walt at the end of the day. We all know that, but every time you see a piece pop up in somebody's CAF gallery that isn't a a sketch that he did at a show, that's always true joy to have on CAF, because there just isn't a lot of it. But yeah, I was who posted something the other day, and I know they've had it for a while. I think Steve Davidge posted this Valkyrie piece, and he was only showing off because he had somebody digitally color it, and just seeing the piece made me happy, because it's just like, man, I wish I had that.
Yeah.
I want a finished piece by Walt. One day I'd like to pick something up.
He comes to this local con that I saw Jason at last month every year. So one year I was walking in and I heard one of those little rollers, those carry-ons that you bring on a plane, behind me, and I turn around and it's Walt and Wheezy, and they're walking behind me, and I'm like, this is weird. You guys belong on a red carpet with people like bowing down, and here you are walking behind me. I feel like I should be carrying your luggage for you.
Yeah, whatever show that was, they should have been carrying Walt and
Yeah.
Weezy's luggage. That is for sure. And we when I owned Big Wow back in the day, we would always pick people up at the airport. And I had to be most of the time was the guy that went, right? And so I picked up Trimpy and Stan Lee and any guests that you wanted to make sure felt well taken care of. That ended up being my job. But that's interesting. But so we could start looking at some artwork. I mean,
Sure.
I know we have a fair amount of pieces to look at, but I think it's fun now. Like you said, though, I mean, your collecting focus. Can you kind of describe your philosophy on collecting, original art? I mean, as far as which artists you choose, and is it related to, you were very story focused before you collected original art. How do you choose who to pick artwork up from now?
I think in hindsight, looking at what I have, it's all focused on the narrative side and sequential storytelling. So maybe the majority of it all is panel pages. And I like moments. Even in my comments, whenever I'm leaving comments on other people's art, I'm always mentioning the moment. So if it's a concise moment that's captured in a page, I love it. Sometimes we'll see as we go through these that the moment maybe gets rounded by the page before or after, so I'll pick up that as well. But throughout, I seem to find that there's a theme, if it's not a Batman piece, that relates to like strong women. And I mean, that's not on purpose. Maybe that's just comics in general. But even from the first piece to, I want to say, the last piece we're going to look at, well, the second to last piece we're going to look at, it's all about kind of strong women. So
Okay.
strong women and Batman.
So were you more of a DC guy growing up versus Marvel or independent?
No, I was more of a Marvel guy because as a kid, I didn't know anything outside of comics other than like the Justice League, the Super Friends cartoon. So Super Friends is DC cartoons for kids. When I finally found comic books around 6th grade, I thought, oh, DC's for kids and Marvel's for like, mature children. So, but I bought everything. I really didn't care.
And today, are you still that way, or is it?
No. When I was a kid, I loved New Mutants. I loved all the mutant books. When I try to get back into it, once I got the itch to read again, thanks to Capullo and New 52. I went back to the X books and all those, but there are just too many of them. So much time had passed. I flipped through it and had people explain what was going on, and I'm like, I can't keep up. These aren't my X-Men anymore. So I stick to mostly Image because they're, 7, 8 issues and you're done. We have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, we're going to start off with some Batman artwork here, And I think I picked the graphic to use for the show before I got your set. So it's kind of cool that you let off with this one.
Oh, we're starting with this one. This one's actually number 1, but I meant it to be the
Oh, you want
last
to go
one.
the other route? We're gonna do a countdown. Okay, well
Yeah.
that's fine. I'm good there. I can swing back this way.
Yeah, that works.
That better?
So that's better. In terms of a wine tasting, we're starting with the light wines and moving into the heavier wines, right? So this is a light wine. Jess Lonergan, love his style. If Sean's the car guy, then I guess Jess is the panel guy, because he's got an interesting take on the way he uses panels. Didn't know who he was, but I went to the New Jersey con that Jason's talking about, and Yo Curry was there, and he had a portfolio of stuff, and he had a bunch of Jess's work, and I flipped through it and loved it, and that's how he kind of got on my radar. When the news broke that he was doing a Hellboy story with Mignola, I was kind of keen on trying to get a page from that. And this one kind of captures the essence of everything that I love about the guy. So you can see from the page that you've got these panels, and you've got this kind of cutting to the present and the past, with the panels that are actually bordered being the now, and then the panels that don't have a border being the past. And it's cool that you can kind of read it in 3 ways. You can read it kind of sequentially from top to bottom, or you could just read the panel, the actually bordered panels, and just get the now moment, or you could just focus on the unpaneled, unbordered panels and kind of look at the past. So he kind of gives you a way to reading this thing 3 ways, and it's a dealer's choice.
I think it's a fantastic piece. I'm not as familiar with Jesse's work, but yeah, this is beautiful. I love the storytelling in it. The panel layout's fantastic. And,
That one panel where he's going to drop that hammer on that's Thor is going to drop the hammer on the dragon is pretty awesome.
Just putting the name in the chat, so for anybody who isn't familiar with Jesse's work knows how to search them on CAF, because I think there's a fair amount of artwork on there, at least 100 pieces, but a lot of published stuff, a lot of kind of commission style pieces on CAF, but just a fantastic artist.
I got this piece at the last New York Comic Con. He was still with Cadence at the time, and now he's with a new group. So if you Google him, I'm sure it'll take you to his new rep. And he still has a lot of pages from this book and pages around this issue where you've got this kind of fight sequence with this panel layout that I think are pretty awesome, if anyone's interested in picking them up.
I will Google, because I'm not sure who his current rep is. I'll dig around. But no, it's a good pick. Definitely a good pick. I don't think we featured Jesse's work in any collector interview before, or any like CAF update when we're picking artwork. So no, I appreciate you picking this as your first one. So let's see.
Nice guy. So I guess the Magic Order was my my book of 2019. Loved the story. Have you read this one yet?
I have not. I know the book, but I have not read it.
As soon as I started reading it, I fell in love with the premise and immediately recommended it to my brother, who's like into horror. And the opening sequence with the boy who's kind of possessed and kills his parents is just chilling. And as soon as my brother read it, he called me and said he loved it. And I knew from that moment that it was going to be a good story. And I think it's a pretty interesting one. Hopefully they turn it into something on Netflix. That's my hope. But this is the first page or actually the last page too, where we've got the strong, independent female character. I love the character of Cordelia. She's in every panel. If you count the back shot in that third panel, and I agonized over this. I picked this up at New York Comic Con 2019, right before the pandemic, and I just agonized at Kwan's booth because I knew I wanted something, but I didn't know what. And if you know the story, you know what's happening in this page, and it's kind of the culmination of all her bad habits kind of working out in the end, because she's just a black sheep. She's, kind of the butt of the family. She's the disappointment, and this is where she kind of turns it all around.
Well, it's beautiful, and yes, Coipel, Tony, sorry, and in kind of a different style than we're used to. Whenever I think of Coipel's work, I always think of Thor, and the line work there. But no, this is it's great, and the panel layout here is fantastic. I love the muted tones in that last panel. I think it's just a really beautiful work of art.
And it also, now that I'm thinking of it, all my pieces are inked and penciled by the same person. I don't think I have anything where there's an inker penciler combo.
Is that intentional, do you think? Or?
A little bit. Obviously, the inker's pretty important, and I know there's a lot of conversations. Who inked Kirby best? Who inked that person best? I just like the purity of one artist that's kind of expressing themselves and putting it all down without someone else interpreting it for them. Like, if you're going to have a Mazzucchelli, you want him inking himself, right?
Mm-hmm. Ideally, that's for sure.
You're right. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're going to see another page from this book in a little bit. Let me go over to the next one here.
Yeah, totally. Shifting
Actually, let me
gears.
show this one first, because this is a couple sequential pages from the same book.
Right. This was during the pandemic. A French collector buddy of mine turned me on to this book and this artist. He had purchased something for his collection that his kids really loved. So I picked it up on his recommendation, and I just loved the watercolors. I loved his cartooning. I love his storytelling. That middle panel is so Toth-like to me, where he's got that mid-ground, that foreground, that background, and he adds all that depth with especially with the trees in the foreground. Just fell in love with the book, reached out to him. He was super nice, and had so many pages that I couldn't decide, and I basically bought like a dozen. I bought enough where I could tell the story without buying the entire book. Effectively, is what my goal was.
So that's interesting. So just from the a referral, the art spoke to you enough that a dozen pages were in your collection in no time. Does that happen often?
No, never. I am such a hemmer and haw and agonize over every page or every piece. I was for the last Magic Order page that we looked at, I was at that booth for hours because I couldn't decide.
That's interesting. When you bought these pages, then did they still have a lot, or was the 12 really like kind of the last half of what was still available, or was it
at the time? I think he had more, but that was 2020. I'm not sure what he has now. I know there's a Cody. The book won all kinds of like children book awards and whatnot. He got nominated for an Eisner and whatnot. They subsequently all sold out, but he is doing a second book with these characters. And he's all self-taught, which is to me mind-boggling. Like the way he gets that kind of sun-dappled effect in that third panel, and it's all watercolor. It just, to me, it's witchcraft.
What's the size of these?
They're smaller than normal. I want to say maybe like 12 by 10, something like that.
And it's definitely on a watercolor board or something, right? It's heavier board.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, these are cool. I wasn't familiar with Jared's work. Again, you're doing well here. a couple artists that we don't talk about too much. I think there's might only be 50 pieces of his art on CAF too. So,
And a lot of them are commissions, I want to say. He does really cool family style commissions of people's literal families in his cartooning style, which I think are the majority of what you'll see on CAF.
mhm. Yeah, I'm looking at another window here, just going through, and you're right. There's a lot of commissions, but yeah, really, really talented. Compositions are all great. The color schemes are fantastic, and yeah, he's very, very talented.
And self-taught. Blows my mind.
Amazing. Let's see here. Then we're switching back for a
To the
moment.
magic order. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how did you? Because you put the order on these too. That was one of the things that doesn't happen often. Usually, I'm relegated to picking the order. So why not put those two together? Or was it just the order that you were picking them?
I wanted to break it up a little bit, just to kind of cleanse the palate. Back to the wine analogy. And obviously, this page to me is more impactful than the first Magic Order page, especially with that last panel, which is just, to me, mind blowing. I love the effects that he gets with the washes and whatnot. And in color, it really pops in the published book, but even black and white, it stands out. And this is kind of the culmination where she kind of reveals that this is the equivalent of Star Wars, where Luke Skywalker realizes, the force is within him, and he can destroy the Death Star without needing the computer. This is kind of that moment for her in this book.
Very cool. So this, like you mentioned earlier, when you're talking about collecting moments and pivotal points and strong women, so this page kind of checked every box.
Correct.
Wait a minute,
but
and artists who ink themselves.
Right. But at the same time, I don't go through that checklist as I'm looking at the art. It's only in hindsight that I'm like, interesting.
No, I mean, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your tastes kind of make, they shine through no matter what. You kind of find the piece that's right, and ironically, it kind of fits in with all the checklists that you have.
For sure. I bothered Quan for so many years after 2019 New York Comic Con looking for more of these pages, and there's a lot more of them now on the site. He recently posted them, but the price is like 5x what they were back then.
Right.
So I cherish the ones I have.
I understand. I'd love to get a piece by Coipel, but yeah, his work is very much out of reach, right? I mean, modern art's tough, I think, because a lot of people that I know, and I don't chase a lot of modern art. I mean, there are a few pieces I pick up here and there, but like the common thing I hear from people is it's if you want to hold it, you got to hold it for 4 or 5 years to maybe get the money out of it. If it depends on the artist, but I think that's kind of a standard when you think about it. So it's tough to when the art gets out of that comfortable range, price wise,
Right.
to make those purchases, because sometimes you look at it and that you gotta love it, because you're gonna want to hold on to this one for a while. Like you said, you got them when they were a lot more affordable. They're 5 times that now. You're not going to run out and buy another half dozen. Even though there's more on the website and available right now.
Right. Buy what you love. Comes back to that.
Exactly. Let's see. Jason's telling me that Coipel Uncanny X-Men pages are still cheap. Is that? Yeah. Is that? I find that hard to imagine, but I'll happily take a look. Would never have thought that. I saw Alberto mentioned earlier that I should be looking these up on the app. I can't work on my phone and a computer at the same time and run an interview, Alberto. But I hope you're using the app to look those. Alberto is got a because he was at San Diego. We had a few people beta test it. He was one of the people who got to download it, so that's why he's ribbing me right now.
One of
But
the
those
lucky
of you in
few.
the audience who have them, you should be using it. And Will Lawson, thank you, new member of the chat. We always appreciate that. Now you get a Thor hammer next to your name when you post on YouTube. Yes, Jason's screaming. But yeah, anyway, let's keep this thing going. What else we got here? Oh wait, we're gonna switch back here as well. Now, how did you do this? This was a commission.
This was a commission. I broke the rules, and I blame ML for this, quite frankly.
Oh no.
One of the New York Comic Cons, Sideshow Bob invited a bunch of people over to his place. At his place, I got to chatting with ML, who mentioned that, I guess, kind of, hopefully I'm retelling this right, in an attempt to kind of get his wife on board with the hobby and the collection, he commissioned an artist to do a remake of a book cover that she liked. And so that gave me the idea of doing kind of a family portrait style for my wife for Valentine's Day, which she loved, and he kind of knocked it out of the park. This was from a trip we had in Maine. Sent him the picture. He kind of roughed it out. I approved it, and he knocked it out of the park.
That's a really great idea, and clearly his style, is something. Somebody mentioned, whimsical early when we were looking at his work, and it's true. It's there, and this is something. Did your wife already like the pieces? I mean, I guess that's we could ask that. Have you shown her all the artwork that you've purchased?
She doesn't care.
As I say,
No.
Steve's shaking his head no, and I can see him in the studio here. So you hadn't, but had you shared his work with her before you did the commission?
No, because again, she wouldn't have cared. I think she appreciates the style. She appreciates, and she's got artistic talent herself. She loves everything about it. But when a package comes in the mail, the only thing she wants to know is how much was it. And beyond that, if I try and explain it to her, or I'm enthusiastic about it and I want to talk to her about it, it ain't going to happen. I go back to WhatsApp and talk to all my buddies about what I
got. Yeah, I get it. I share a lot of the pieces I pick up with Maureen and the girls, but and I do get a "that's nice" kind of thing. But yeah,
but they have their own, right? Don't they have their own collection kind of?
Oh,
they
definitely do. They definitely do. It's just the stuff that I collect isn't really in their wheelhouse, right? It's they have definitely their own tastes, and ours don't align at all. I showed them like an 8-ball page that I got, or even the Uncanny X-Men page I picked up. It's just not. It's just not as impressive to them. My daughter, both my daughters really like commission style stuff more. Like this, if they saw that, they would love it. That would make their day to see a piece like that.
Jason's invited to meet the dogs whenever he wants.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's funny. Well, Jason's a dog guy, but I think Alberto's telling him that he should get one with his dogs. I think, that's not a bad idea. So how long was the commission process when you were having Jared work on this?
It wasn't that long. We went to Maine in September. I proposed it to him around December. He had it to me before February.
Mm-hmm. That's not
that
bad.
Wasn't too bad. No, not at all. And I mean, the roughs that he gave me were just like, I wasn't even supposed to be in the photo because the original photo is just her and the 3 dogs. And then after he gave me the rough draft, I kind of proposed throwing me in there somehow, and he just smashed it. He just threw me in there.
That's that's a bonus. The dogs look great, though. I agree with Jason. He did a great job. Let's see here. What is the next piece? Oh, we got a few pieces from this story. So a Conan the Barbarian page, and I think this. Well, this and the other pieces, they're all fantastic. So what attracted you to Zaffino's work?
I saw Sean Murphy post a commission of Zaffino's. Prior to that, I didn't know who he was. It was a pretty cool Conan um, in the jungle piece. I loved his line work. I love the textures that he gets. Um, I know you're into art. You went to art school. I've never been to art school, but I can doodle. And if you give me a Jim Lee, I can pretty much replicate that Jim Lee, with pretty high fidelity. Same thing with most artists. But folks like Zaffino and Murphy and Bill Sienkiewicz, they're like, to me, almost magical because they're actually kind of throwing the material on the page and creating stuff, whereas everyone else is just kind of connecting lines. So you get that kind of magic in Zaffino's line work and all his ink wash effects that he gets.
Yeah, I've always admired his stuff. I mean, like you said, he's just unique. He puts so much texture in his work. I haven't seen a Zaffino that I didn't enjoy, and want to want to feature. I can tell you that even when I do the weekly feature with Snork, I every time I see a Zaffino, it's like, oh, I could feature that. I mean, it's just an easy pick because the work is always so solid, whether it's a published piece or it's a commission style piece. It's always going to be something that appeals to me. So it's tough. I'll sometimes he's an artist who I have to like will myself not to pick. And there are artists like that I just enjoy, right? Because otherwise, if I did it, I'd be picking at least 2 pieces a month from them. And when you only have 40 a month, you really should be trying to keep them unique. But yeah, I've always been a fan, and I know we have 3 pages, I think, from here to look at. Here's another one. Love that
Yeah,
last panel. The lighting on that, just fantastic.
it's amazing the effects and the moods that he gets. These kind of fell into my lap. Out of the blue, I got an email from Zaffino's new rep at the time over at Inky Knuckles, and just offering me pages from this book that hadn't been released. I don't know what I did to deserve the outreach or why he thought of me first. He sent me the PDFs. I went through them all, and I really wanted the first page and only the first page, but the first page was already spoken for, and the rest of the book was available. So at that point, I went from only wanting the first page to wanting this sequence, the second, third, and fourth page, which we're looking at them in reverse order, but only because the second page from the book, which I think we're going to look at next, is probably my favorite. I posted these. That's the one. I posted these on CGC maybe shortly after I had gotten them, and Scott Williams saw them and wrote that Zaffino's work, I forget the exact quote, but something to the effect that Zaffino's work was kind of the best in comics today, and that his inks were profoundly good, which, coming from Scott Williams, is pretty high praise.
Yeah, he's been around a little bit.
Yeah.
I was following him on what was that, Facebook, I think, where he was posting old pictures of him and Portasio. So yeah, when you see it, when I don't recognize him because he's been in the hobby, in the business for 40 years, yeah, he's definitely inked a lot of pages. So that's high praise from a guy like that. White paint.
I saw that post, but on Instagram, and somehow I started on the second page, on the second photo where they were younger, and I couldn't tell that that was Scott until I went back a photo and saw them, now. I'm like, wow, that's him.
Yeah, so you saw the same image, right? I mean, I was
Yeah.
looking at it, and I'm like, that does not look like Scott. I mean, I know what Scott looks like right now. If you try to like reverse him, go back in time 40 years, that just didn't look like him. Well, they were sitting at the beach or something like that.
Yes.
But that's the best thing. One of the best things that not the best thing. One of the best things about San Diego is stuff like that comes out of the woodwork, right? People posting old photos from San Diego or from people that from past shows and things like that. And then just the things you get that you didn't get to see at San Diego are also always really fun. The meetups that some of the creators have at some of the restaurants or those sorts of things. Rob Liefeld got around a lot this last weekend. It's just cool to kind of see those things going on because it's such a big show. Everybody really has their own unique experience there. But anyways, these are beautiful. I mean, I would love to get a published page from Zaffino as well. I mean, this one in particular is just it's brilliant.
Now, when I posted these on CAF, some random guy messaged me named by the name of Kent Mansley, asking where I'd gotten them. So I kind of spilled the tea and let him know that Zaffino was moving away from his current rep and that his new rep was over at Inky Knuckles. And I gave him the contact info and left it at that. And months later, this Kent Mansley character messages me again. And he's like, you don't know me, but my name is so-and-so, and I work here. And I really appreciate, you connecting me with the new rep because I bought pretty much the entirety of the rest of the book. And I really appreciate you, putting me in contact with him. And I want to send you something in appreciation. And I'm thinking, this can't be real. So I gave him my contact information just to see what would happen. And sure enough, Kent Mansley was true to his word. I got a bunch of Pixar stuff and some doodles and things. So not only did I get great art, but I got a good friend out of the deal too.
Yeah, Kent is well known, so that's cool. And I just went over to Kent's CAF Gallery, and he's got that Conan issue 1 cover right in his featured stuff. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
He ended up buying. I said when I first got offered pages from this book, the first page was spoken for. He managed getting that page too. So now I think these 3 that I have, when I die, they have to be willed over to him because he's got to complete the book.
Right. Wow. Yeah. I don't go into his CAF Gallery too often. I'm gonna add it to my follow list now. Wow. Yeah, he hasn't updated in a while, but still, I mean, some of the last stuff. And there was another Conan page, which was issue 8, page 1. That's really a nice page too. Okay, well, it's back. You never know who you're going to run into on CAF, right? And where that might lead. But that's great. So many people are very generous in our hobby. I'm always grateful for that.
I have yet to be disappointed by anyone that I've met.
Neither have I, I'd say. And everybody they exceed your expectations for them.
Yeah.
Now, let's see. This next piece, I think, is the only DPS in the lot. And
correct.
This is a page or a DPS from Tokyo Ghost.
Correct. And now maybe the scan isn't as great as the rest, only because this one got framed and hung on the wall almost right away. So I never really got a good image, and this is kind of through the glass. So it's kind of the best I could get after the fact. Maybe one day I'll take it out of the frame just to get a proper scan of the thing. But this was the page that kind of started it all. This is when I went to Jason's and decided I was going to plunk down some cash. This was the one that caught my eye that I really wanted. And I had to argue with my wife to get it too, because when she looked at it, she swore that it was apocalyptic. Because obviously the first panel you've got kind of Tokyo in disarray with the wooden bridge, and people are kind of migrating on animals and things. And then that last panel, they kind of look shocked. So I had to send the image around to a bunch of different friends to have them weigh in on whether this image appeared apocalyptic to them. And depending on the vote would determine if I could frame it, hang it in the home office. And luckily everyone agreed with me. And it's a gorgeous piece of art.
So you have framed it and hung it in the office, and everything was fine.
Correct.
Yeah, no, this is beautiful. Is it apocalyptic? I don't know. It could be the other way around. It's after. It's after the apocalypse. Everybody's rebuilding. That's a period of, to rejoice. So
I'm
yeah,
with you.
yeah, and I love the way Sean, where he signs his name, and where he puts the book information. He's got his own style. It makes it pretty much unmistakable, even though his style is unmistakable anyway. But just by that other touch, drawing, putting his own ruled lines in there and writing those things in the same spots all the time. I just think that's cool. I own a couple pages from Joe the Barbarian, and same thing, right? He puts them in at the bottom. I mean, nobody does that. So
Ironically, the only time I've ever seen it done that way is if you look at car designs.
oh, yeah, that kind of
Like,
makes sense. Interesting. And he's a car guy and a
yeah,
motorcycle guy. So yeah,
yeah.
maybe he kind of picked it up from that. I didn't think about that. Huh.
So car designers will usually do it just like that.
I've had him on the show a few times. I've never asked him about that. I think I'm gonna have to have him on again just so I can get to the bottom of it. That's funny. I never noticed that. I never thought about it before. But yeah, that page is beautiful. I'm sure in person it's yeah, pretty impressive.
It's as Felix would say, wall power. It's
Hmm.
I never get tired of looking at it. There's so much detail in it. There's so much depth in it. Um, I always pick up something new or stare at something different. It's it will never leave my collection.
Well, like you said, it's from your first purchase. I think that's impressive that you still have it, and that it's on the wall, and it will never leave you. That's good. Um, and another page from Tokyo Ghost. This is also from issue 3, and it's the page after that one, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Which kind of reinforced my point with my wife because, at the bottom panel for the DPS, Debbie's looking kind of not in horror, but in awe of this kind of paradise they've rebuilt for themselves. Again, this was part of the first purchase. So this was part of the deal when I went to Jason's. I picked up 3 pieces. This was the second. And again, I just love everything about it. The storytelling, the depth, the way he's got the backgrounds with the delicate line work that gives you kind of off in the distance. I can't say enough good things about this page.
And this one, if I'm looking at the image, it's photographed as well too. So it's on the wall.
It's on the wall. Yeah.
I can see the little glare there, but no, it's beautiful. I've always I love Sean's work, and he's his view of the world. I mean, we marvel at the way he draws cars, but yeah, I love the way he just handles the scenery in this thing, and I think everybody mentioned the depth it does. It just has, it's perfect. I mean, we're so used to in comics cityscapes and those sorts of things, and this just imagery wise just sets itself apart from the storytelling imagery that we're used to, right? And Sean's not afraid to tackle something like this. It's amazing.
No, I mean, I love his Gotham work, but to me, Tokyo Ghost and the images in the part of the story where they're actually in kind of like the paradise that is Tokyo are my favorites.
Yeah, nope, I'm with you there. I think so. We're doing a little switch here, but sticking with Sean. So you had mentioned Batman earlier, and so we're getting some Batman here. And this was what was this one from? This was a White Knight.
Correct. So obviously he's got his Murphy verse with Batman, and to me it all started with the White Knight, and for me my opinion, this book out of the 3 books is my favorite. So having this page, again, I collect moments, and this is probably the most powerful moment in the entire story because it involves Batman and Jim and their relationship outside of everything that we already know about, him and Harley and Batman and Joker. This is probably the relationship that means the most to the Dark Knight, and this is where it kind of starts to fall apart between the two of them. A lot of symbolism, a lot of imagery. I love the inks. I love the little touches that Sean's known for, kind of the gothic stuff, like the lamp in the bottom panel, and the way he uses those things to kind of frame the image. This one is one of my favorites.
Now, when you kind of, because I know you've got a few Batman pages, I mean, this would have been one of the earlier Batman pieces by him that you picked up?
No, the earlier stuff sadly got sold. I had the Joker in the library page, which I bought directly from Sean. Probably one of the first pieces of White Knight art that he sold. And I had 2 other pretty significant pieces that all went to the wayside for one reason or, well, like I mentioned, that failed Born Again deal, and then needed to do some stuff around the house.
Well,
so this is actually the second to last piece that I bought from him from the White Knight story.
Well, it's fantastic. Tony mentions that he's an avid Toth fan, so it clearly shows in his work. Yeah, I would agree, definitely. I mean, Toth is a great storyteller, and Sean is as well. And I just think, the camera angles that he chooses to use in the first panel, the close-ups for the argument, and the wrap up there at the end. I mean, all of that, it's just smart. It's really, really well done. The lighting from that one gas lamp, and basically the second to last panel, it's wonderful. If I had money, I would pick up 20 Sean Gordon Murphy pieces, and I'd be happy to have them all, because I've never seen one that didn't disappoint. I was actually checking out his site earlier today, because I thought, I've always wanted a plot holes page after looking at all your stuff, and of course all he has is a cover, so that doesn't work for me. But yeah, I was thinking I might shoot him an email and ask him about that. Plot holes was a fun story, and again, I love his approach to his own stuff. I love when he's writing and illustrating and stuff. Stingray says the same. Yeah, plot holes was great. But no, great page here. And let's see.
Eric in the comments says a lucky collector got some great pieces, and yes, he is a very lucky collector, Eric.
I mean, I think we've seen a few of the library pieces. They're amazing architecturally. All the books.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can only imagine which piece it might have been, but that would have been tough to let go of.
Well, Sean did a thing in New York where he was selling White Knight art, and that's where I met Sideshow for the first time. And I went with the intention of buying just that one page. If it was available, I was going to buy it. Didn't matter what it was priced at. It was going to come home with me. And sure enough, it was there. And sure enough, I bought it. And at the end of the night, Sean, came over and he's like, "So, did you get anything?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "What'd you get?" And I said, "The library page." And he just crinkled his nose. He's like, "I priced that because I kind of didn't want it to leave the collection." Like, "Well, I called your bluff."
Right. Yeah, that's tough. But when you really want it, I mean, obviously you don't have it anymore, but still, that's fun. Sean's a very personal guy. I like it. We had him at OAX, and he's not going to be there at year 2, but I told him he's got an open invitation to come back whenever he wants, because I love his stuff. And I would have loved to have gotten him to do one of the poster pieces that we did. We just didn't have the time or the wherewithal to get it all done. But I know he would. I mean, he killed those commissions that he did. I don't know if you ended up seeing those, but the 8 ones
Oh,
he
yeah.
took were all cover quality and fantastic. If I had 10K, I would have dropped it in there. I loved his X-Men piece, I have to say.
And I love the fact that he kind of made the promise that if he ever works on a book with those characters, he'll turn it into a cover. So all those commissions might one day be published.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I thought that was well. That's the wish that every collector has, is to see one of their pieces get turned into a cover. Alberto got that on a Mannix purchase that he did back in the fall, and he ended up convincing Nick Carucci to use the image as a cover, and now voila, it happened. I mean, that's like striking it rich, hitting the lottery.
Yeah, because obviously the cover would have been how many multiples higher if it were a
Then a
cover from the
commission,
get-go.
right? So true. Now we're going to switch gears just a little bit. So this is the Rocket Girl. And
Yeah,
we were talking about this thing to kind of start things off. This is an amazing artwork. So such confidence in the line work.
it's so clean, which is by contrast. You look at Zaffino, you look at Sean, and then you look at Amy, and her lines, they almost look mechanical in nature. They don't look like they were done by a human hand. They're just so pristine and clean. Loved the character, loved the story. I guess it again it hits all those marks. It's a strong female character. It's a cover, which is rare for me. But strong female character, inks done by the same person. And this image to me is kind of representative of the book and the character. So if I had to have anything where I would normally have wanted a panel page, in this instance, I wanted the cover. And this is what I bugged her about every time I saw her, or every time I had the opportunity to engage with her via email. I would politely pester her if she was ready to sell it. And she kind of gave in, because she, in her mind, screwed up where I had asked her about a Wonder Woman piece that she had done, and it was going to be released. And she said she kind of promised it to me, but then sold it to someone else. And she emailed me saying, so sorry, I know I had agreed that it was yours, but as a I'm ready to sell this cover if you want it. And I just jumped on it.
Wow, that was nice of her.
Yeah. And again, another artist that's all self-taught.
Now, do you learn that from speaking with them? Because I didn't know she was self-taught, but is that or is it just part of your
Yeah.
background check?
No. I guess I'm an accountant by trade, but as a kid, I would draw incessantly. So the business of comics and the business of making comics are kind of two things that I'm interested in. So whenever I get to speak to someone like a Sean or an Amy, I'll always pick their brain about, technique and how they price the art and how they come up with layouts or ideas, or, where they went to school. So it just kind of came up organically in conversation.
It's an impressive piece. Now, is this something that you would frame, or would you put this in a portfolio?
This one is also hanging. When I sold the Joker in the Library piece to Eric, this one replaced it.
Well, it's on par, with that. I mean, it's just such an amazing piece. Thank you, Marcus. Yeah, I might have made it to the big show had I not gone to art school. You're absolutely right. But you wouldn't have me running CAF today if I didn't go to art school, I think.
Well, it's funny because I have a high school friend who went to RISD and graduated and came out of RISD and then went to business school and had a career at Microsoft. So maybe if he had not gone to art school, he too could have been a comic book creator.
That's very true, right? Yeah, you mean you come out of art school thinking you need to get you don't know what to do. That's the problem, right? I didn't know what job to have, and so Yeah. And I married a programmer, and the rest was history. She said I had to have a desk job. So yeah, you never know. But I've always enjoyed Amy's work. I don't know how much work. I'm kind of curious now that I'm still on the CAF here. How much of her artwork is actually on the site? Oh wow, a great deal. Over 500 pieces.
Wow.
That's a
I
lot.
wouldn't
Yeah,
have thought of that.
most of it published. Yeah, that's nice. Wow. Now she's somebody I've never actually owned anything by either. I'll have to correct that at some point. Now, I mean, with an artist like Amy, is it like a one and done thing for some, some artists that you pick things up from, or do you kind of follow them, their career afterwards, and where you might pick up something else?
I follow their careers. I'll always support Amy. The books that she came out with after Rocket Girl, I bought and gave to my nieces and nephews, and enjoyed reading them myself. But to me, nothing can beat that cover. So my philosophy is, if what I'm being offered or what I'm interested in buying isn't, if I have an A plus example, I'm either going to get another A plus example, but I'm not going to get a B minus or a B plus or even an A minus.
It's back to the wine buying kind of philosophy, right?
Yeah, which again, for better or worse, I'm focused and I don't have, for as long as I've been in this hobby, which isn't that long, you still think I'd have more art.
Well, I mean, so we talked about this earlier, but just, I guess kind of stated again, is that you don't really look for starter pieces. You really want to get you kind of said I skip commissions and sketches to go right to the published stuff. So when you're buying published artwork, you probably wouldn't want to just get a good example, or of something, if you can get the best example, or the best
Right.
example you can afford.
Exactly.
That's the approach. See, I'd probably be better off doing that. I'm always like, if there's an artist I want to get something from, I'm like, all right, I just want to get that. It's like my starter piece. So maybe
Right.
maybe a little cheaper, or not well known title or something that they worked on, but I just have the initial desire to get that box checked. Let me get something by Don Perlin, 3 pass. I'm like, I gotta buy something, because I don't, if I wait another 5 years, it'll just get harder and harder to get something. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna buy that starter piece. Or I've done that with, like, I really like Dean Churchill's work back in the late 90s. So I wasn't very savvy back then, but I just picked up like $110 page because I wanted a place to start. So so that's cool. I'm glad you stick to your guns on your approach to art buying.
Yeah, for better or worse, I can't say that it's served me well, but it is what it is. I can't do it any other way.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the next artist is a different one, but I assume. Well, I'm not going to assume. Did you pick this up from Jason?
No, I picked this up on Heritage,
Oh wow.
which is, I want to say, the only time I've ever won something on Heritage for myself. And I was ecstatic when I won this. Reading comic books for as long as I have, I can't really think of that many moments where I'm reading a page, I'm reading a comic book, and I laugh out loud. And this page did it for me. So to have it now in my collection just blew me away. It's got everything you would want in a Tim Sale piece. It's the cinematography, the panels, the Bruce's face in that third panel just kills me. The dialogue, and then when you've got Alfred at the very end with his comment, I laughed out loud, and I had to have it.
Yeah, well done, Master Bruce. See, you're back to story then. I mean, obviously, Tim Sale is an amazing narrative storyteller. With, as far as his design sensibility and whatnot. But you wanted this page. That's cool.
There's no Batman, there's no villain, there's no one punching anyone. It's just pure story.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful page. I only own one Tim Sale piece as well, and it's like but it's kind of like I've got to buy something. I've got to find something at some point. it's a Spider-Man page, but no Spidey on it, all Craven. But again, just a really nice stuff. I mean, I've always admired his work and never never really found a particular storyline where I felt I had to have a piece from.
And
I love this early inking on Myth Adventures. I did love Myth Adventures, but he was only the inker on that, so that wasn't going to work. But yeah, it's a great pickup. Now, it's something like go ahead.
Did you end up selling it, or you still have it?
No, I still have it. I do still have
Okay.
that one. Yeah, but it's one of those pieces that I look at and I think I don't need it, right? But I don't want to, unless I was able to replace it with something better, I probably will hold on to it for a while just because it is nice. As far as a work of art, it's really great, but the story doesn't hold a lot for me. I mean, I liked his Spidey run and his Daredevil run and all that, but yeah, just, I don't know. You know, he didn't work. Well, did he ever work on any X-Men related books or Thor? Probably not. See, if he would have, I probably would have been. That's what I'd want to get, since that's my my two favorite characters.
He didn't play in the sandbox you really were interested in.
No, and that makes it tough sometimes. But you know, when you want to, it's back to that me wanting representative pieces, right? I mean, Perlin, I ended up getting like a Ghost Rider page with no Ghost Rider on it or anything, but yeah, sometimes those artists that you really admire, don't ever work on the titles that have significance to you. So if you want,
Right.
but for me, it's like wanting to always have a good piece. So sometimes you have to own something. Like I picked up some Will Mineo pages this weekend, and from Jeff Wedding, and he never really. I actually love his work on X-Men. The animation show, his comics. I never read any of them, but I wanted to get some representative pieces of his work after I did an interview with him, and it's like, well, I'm going to take whatever I can get, and his stuff is affordable enough that I can buy more than one, and feel and feel good about it too. So I did. That was my only purchases at San Diego as far as original art goes. Just 2 pages from Mr. Wedding, but yeah.
Now with your collection, is it insured? Do most people insure their collection, or is it just kind of?
I think it's more of a 50-50 thing. I actually had to go through the process of changing insurance companies this in July, actually, because down here in Florida, so many insurance companies pulled out. Well, I got a notice like 3 months ago that our insurance company was pulling out of Florida, and my policy was expiring in July. So the company that I ended up going with, basically when I talked to them about the art collection, and I actually have collectibles insurance because I do hold artwork for artists, when we're doing the live stream sales. So I got it for that, but not for my personal collection, and probably should look into it because, the standard home insurance policies don't cover collectibles or valuables. What was his reply? I think he said they'll cover it up to like $20,000, but that's for things like jewelry, art, probably those bottles of wine that you have. That's the max you can get
Right.
for claiming anything. So, and he said that either you would have to itemize everything, and get fair value estimates from someone on those, or he even suggested that using somebody like Collectibles Insurance company to do the insuring for it. And again, you still have to go through and itemize everything. So I don't know. I mean, I talked to a lot of collectors, and it's probably less than 50% of the people that actually take care of that. And that's probably not right, not the right thing to do. I mean, you really, I've got 400 or 500 pieces of art, even if they were all only worth, $200 a page. That's a lot. That's a lot of value sitting around, right? So you really have to, it's something we really should probably kind of do a dive into on a specific show, just to talk about, insuring one's collection and the ways and methods of doing that. Maybe I can get somebody from Collectibles Insurance to come on and bring in somebody who like the guy who was advising me, that was just a broker saying, yeah, you're out of luck if your artwork goes,
Right. That was the other bit of wisdom that Jason gave me on day one. insure your collection.
Yeah, and it really isn't. I mean, it's money, right? But it's not terribly expensive in the grand scheme of things. So
Right.
yeah, I made a note. I'm going to. I'll see if I can't get somebody from Collectibles Insurance to join me for a chat. We can talk about it. But yeah, it would be wise. So you do. That's great. I mean, I admire those who take the plunge and do it right.
The one perk that maybe people don't think about that I find helpful with the insurance policy is that if I buy or sell and ship, if I ship through a preferred carrier and signature required, the shipment is covered by the policy.
So do you use Collectibles Insurance as your insurance company? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't have to itemize either. You used
Huh.
to have to for certain amounts over a certain dollar amount, but you don't have to anymore. They just want the
So
full
you
value
can
of,
just go and say my collection's worth $250,000. Give me a policy.
and yeah, pretty much. And then if something happened where you needed a claim on a piece, as long as it's less than the total value that you're um, insuring, there's no questions asked. Not that I've had to, take it to that level, but that's what I've been told by people that have.
Right, right. I mean, well, that's why I use Collectibles Insurance with the artist sales, because
Right.
same thing. If you ship with UPS or USPS, and as long internationally as well, as long as you require a signature, then it's covered, right? So
Right.
and that was my biggest fear. I is shipping the volume of artwork we ship, even with the mystery sketches. I mean, I'm probably shipping about 600 artworks a year, and you'd be a fool not to be insuring those through some party. And
Right.
Stingray, yes, it is. I think if you want, shoot me an email, Stingray, after the show, because I worked with I can't remember the name. It was somebody I like a broker that works with Collectibles Insurance. I think I kind of got a little bit of a better rate when I worked with them. So yeah, email me. I don't remember their name right now, but I will look into it and pass that information along. Anybody that wants to get information about that, I can put you in contact with these people too. So Bill at comicartfans.com. Shoot me an email and I can pass along that information. Cool. Well, we never talk about insurance here, so that's
Again,
very good. I'm glad
it's
you
the
brought it up.
CPA in me.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here, but let's see. Oh yeah, here we go. The fifth one. So we're kind of going back to Tokyo Ghost here, and this is just such a dang dynamic page, and and winding up with the whales. It's just
Yeah.
it's like overkill with the machinery of the interior of the sub, and then bam, that it's just such an elegant way of handling this page, and then the two inset panels are just beautiful. I mean, is this back to a storytelling page for you?
100%. And
Yeah.
and to your point, the entirety of the beginning of the book is how society's kind of fallen apart and we're all kind of screwed by technology. And this is them trying to infiltrate and get into, the paradise that is Tokyo. And to your point, it's all technology, technology, technology. And then that last panel on the bottom is their first kind of glimpse into the world they're about to inhabit with the whales in nature. So, which I'd never thought about until you kind of just said that. But this is one of those pages that I wanted. Somebody had it on CAF. I reached out, asked them if they would be willing to sell it. They said yes and gave me a price. And at that point, Sean's new rep, Jeff, was super gracious. I emailed him asking, what kind of a reasonable price would be to offer on a page like this. He gave me a number. I made that number my offer, and the guy wanted more. And I wasn't willing to budge because I'm an idiot. And the guy basically sold it, and that was that. So I mentioned a couple times, the failed born again quest, where I was kind of jockeying for a page, and that fell through, and I was just devastated. And for whatever reason, this was kind of 2020, so we were all locked down, and I'm feeling super angry and sad that this born again page slipped through my fingers and it didn't work out. And then this page kind of popped to mind, and I immediately emailed the guy that originally had it to see if he knew who had it now and if that person was willing to sell it. And he got back to me, said yes. I threw out a number. The other guy said yes, and it was mine in lickety split. So super happy with this page because of all the other Tokyo Ghost pages. This was kind of the one that I really wanted that got away, and I ended up paying whatever, twice what I could have gotten it for, but I'm happy with it.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, not letting it slip through your fingers, right? But wonderful that you managed to get it back, though. I mean, you have that extra opportunity to pick it up.
Probably super rare. I don't know that it happens often, and the scan doesn't do it justice because the lighting effects that you get in that bottom panel with the whales is all kind of like with this white ink kind of, I'm not sure how the hell he accomplished it, but it's just gorgeous to look at in person. And even I after Jason mentioned that, I guess last week he mentioned that that scanner was on sale, I ended up getting it. And even with that damn scanner, I can't make this one scan, this one page pop the way it deserves to.
Yeah, well, delicate work and like this, and especially like pencil work, is really hard to scan well. My scanner doesn't do pencils justice at all, and I have played around with the settings forever on it, and I just cannot get it right. So I usually have to touch things up in Photoshop when I'm done because the scanner just can't pick up some of that line work. And there's a lot of there's a lot of fine work in this piece by Sean, so I can see why that would be a challenge.
If you go to the CAF, I got actual like photos of some of the close up where you can kind of see the dry brush effects that he gets with the white ink to pull that off. That kind of does it a little bit more justice. But yeah, it's gorgeous.
Oh yeah, actually, I can just share the screen, because you're right. The looks like you've got the scans a little bit better than the one you sent me. I could have lifted this. Let me see. I'll share my screen. Yeah, that way. It's a little bit darker, but then you threw in the detail pieces. Yeah, I mean, look at that. That's so nice.
It really is. This is why
No, go ahead.
This is why my wife hates this hobby, because I'll just sit in a room with my phone trying to take pictures at different angles for like all night. She's like, "Are you done yet?"
I was when I saw the sub, it reminded me, one of the times I interviewed him, he makes little models of the vehicles sometimes, so that it makes it, he can turn it around, and I just thought that was kind of cool. Like David Peterson, who did Mouse Guard, he would actually sculpt out of cardboard some of the sets because he liked to just have something to look at that gave him reference points. I just think that's awesome. The guys, they need that 3D in front of them to create the stuff that they're working at. But yeah, this is nice. Yeah, so fun.
But again, strong woman, inker, penciler, captures a moment, checks all the boxes.
That's a good one. Now we are switching gears here to a totally different artist.
And this one is your fault, Bill.
This is my fault. How is that?
This is your fault. Because this is an artist that I think every time it comes up on like a top 10 and you guys are talking about the artist, you'll always say, not represented in your collection, you need to get one. And you said that one night and it stuck with me, and it was an itch that I had to immediately scratch, but I couldn't just go out and get anything. It had to be like the right one. And this one popped up. I think it was Kent Mansley that pointed me in the right direction on eBay, and I was able to land this one, which to me is just like a haunting moment that ends a great run for a great book. And I mean, if you're looking for Magnolia inks, this has got a lot of ink.
Oh yeah, and it's his when he inks like this, you don't really see that in print, right? I mean, it would be like a solid black when it's printed, but it's so much fun to see Mike's work like this because you just see so much of him in it, and I think it's awesome. I mean, that first panel is fantastic. Striking the match like that.
Yeah.
This thing's all about mood and lighting, like so much of Mike's work is. And I hate to say, I mean, okay, I own a Rocket Raccoon page, so I have a published page by Mike, but nothing from Hellboy, which is the period I would love to get something from him by. But yeah, this is wonderful. It's like his stuff is so good. His interior pages are as nice as his covers. It's like even if you were a cover collector, I would think an interior from Mike on Hellboy, especially from this era, would be very satisfying. You don't have to own a cover to have something that just feels like it's a masterpiece. And yeah, this thing's amazing.
I can't not look at it, and I can't look at it and not think of you.
Well, that's good. Well, I hope I haven't, I mean, that's, I think, I don't know. I mean, I call him like I see him, Steve. I mean, it's, I firmly believe that there's certain artists out there that everybody should have something from, even if it's all you can afford is one of his pencil sketch things that he does or has done in the past. I think you got to start somewhere. Let's see, Paul. I see a question about CAF from Paul in the chat. I was going to see, what was it? Where was it? Oh, I lost it. There it goes. Can someone let me know how to add? Yeah, you just scan them. A lot of people do, use their phones, take pictures of them. We've got an app coming out in 6 to 8 weeks that'll make it very easy to use your phone to basically photograph, crop, color correct, and upload things. But today, either use a scanner, and which one? I always recommend the Epson Workforce. There's 2 11x17 models that are out there, and I think a lot of collectors and dealers use those. If you don't own a scanner, they're kind of like the best ones out there. But yeah, you create a gallery room in your gallery and you just start uploading art. So
now, you mentioned the other day that with the app, the resolution on the icons is going to be greater, so everyone should kind of upload.
On the avatar, like your avatar.
Yeah, the avatar.
Right. When we first started using the avatar on CAF, they were only like 80 pixels across. So when you uploaded them, we resized them to like 100, figuring it would be fine, right? Well, now on the phone, just the way the phone interpolates the images, even though we've increased that number to, we have increased that number to 300. That's the main thing. But anybody who uploaded it prior to us increasing the max size to 300, the 100 pixel ones just look all fuzzy. And right now, I'd say like 3/4 of people's avatars are fuzzy because I don't even know when we changed it to 300. It was years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago. But it just shows you how long people have used the same avatar, and it does look fine on the website when you're in Chrome or whatnot. But yeah, the app really shows off how kind of bitmapped, and blurry,
right,
those early avatars look. But it's cool. I mean, it's very Facebook like, as far as like the appearance. You have a cover image and you have your avatar, so when the galleries feel very familiar, if you're used to using the Facebook app. So for those who have avatar shaming, says Alberto, I just want everybody to look good at the end of the day. That's the thing. I want everybody's galleries on the app to represent them well. So that's my only goal. So, but I think once people see it, they'll know. They're going to be like, oh shoot, I got to update.
I need
this.
to upload. Yeah. Will the art resolution be upped a bit too, or no? That'll stay the same.
No, it's
nope.
We've actually we're doing some with the content delivery network we're using. We have we're doing some special image resizing on the fly for certain things, but the when you get to the art detail page itself, it's the same size image resolution that's on CAF. So if you're a premium member and you're scanning large, it'll still be a 2,000 pixel tall scan that you can zoom in and out of, so you can look at more detail, close, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's all in there. But there was a lot of like optimizing search results and things, the image size is there, because the problem is we couldn't show the thumbnails. Like on CAF it works fine, but on your phone, we chose to have like a timeline for a search result. So we don't show 3 images across, we show 1. And so because of the width of your phone, even a low end, like early Android, it's still like 300 pixels across, and a vertical image when we make a thumbnail is only going to be about 120. So it loaded really fast, but it looked terrible. So we had to come up with a size in between a thumbnail and the full size scan, which we don't save today on CAF, but fortunately the delivery system that we use allows us to on the fly resize, serve up an image in between there, and as soon as we figured that out, it's made the app much faster. And so yeah, but as far as the image quality, absolutely, yeah, but it's using the same images, the same data, but we're going to handle things smarter, like with comments on your artwork. One of the things that I've never really liked on CAF is when like a person replies to a comment, it really just puts the comment down at the bottom. Well,
Right.
similar like on Facebook, we want to be able to nest the comment underneath the reply, so that way it just looks cleaner. And again, it's going to be more familiar and just feel like, it'll feel like an app that you're used to working in. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I can't wait for everybody to see it. But my avatar is when I was young. Oh yeah, Marcus. Everybody knows Marcus's avatar. They've seen enough comments by him. Marcus's avatar looks just fine in the app, I can tell you that. So, all right, well, what do we got here? I think we have 3 more pieces to look at, and a couple are from Sean. But let's go ahead and take a look at this next one here. So this is from White Knight again, issue 4, and this is the stuff I love about Sean. His storytelling. He's not afraid to like draw small panels, against larger ones like this. I just think this is great.
So when this book came out, what I would do is I knew Sean was going to drop the art the day after the book came out. So I would go on Amazon and buy it digitally, because then at midnight I could download it and kind of read it and decide on what page I might want to kind of go after. So midnight comes, I read the issue, I love this page, and sure enough, the next day it's for sale, and I was able to snag it. And this page, we already saw a page from this book earlier, and that page is the page after this moment. So once I was able to get this page from Sean, I immediately emailed his rep and asked if I could pretty please buy the next page, and Sean was nice enough to part with it. So I got the full complete moment between Batman and Jim. But again, to your point, that middle bit with the 8 panels is just amazing storytelling. And I wasn't a big Batman the Animated Series guy. I'm just too old, I guess. But I guess this is kind of a moment from the cartoon, which I didn't know.
I wouldn't have known that either, because I only saw the cartoon sparingly. Now, I think we've talked about it with Sean in the past. I mean, when he does an art drop, he doesn't drop the whole book. He typically might only sell half of the pages at a time. So was it, when you were saying you contacted him about the page after this one, was it that this one was available for sale but the other one wasn't? Okay,
Correct. So of the, I don't know, 7 pages that he offered up, this was one of them. But he was holding on to the page with Jim and Batman in the alley. I love the speed lines. This page is kind of everything that I love about Sean's work.
Yeah, again, I'm not a DC guy, but I'd be happy to own this one. Absolutely.
And I mean, bang for your buck. Look at how many villains are in that top panel. I mean,
Yep.
obviously not the Joker, but kind of everyone else, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very slick. So, but that's cool. I've always admired the fact that Sean doesn't sell everything. He wants to hold things back for retirement or or whatever, some point in time in the future. I think that's really smart. But cool. So I think it's great that you had a page in mind, and fortunately. Now, would you have asked if this page wasn't in the drop? Would you have emailed them and asked them about this page? Do you think?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. The 2 of the 3 pages that I subsequently sold and regret were pages that I just asked for
Oh,
that weren't available.
well, see, so you have to. It's not being aggressive. You have to be curious, right? You have to let them know your interests. So that's good. Because me, I probably wouldn't have asked. I was like, I would have probably looked at it and said, "Oh, he's keeping those," or and so I'll have to look and settle for something else.
And my motto is it never hurts to ask.
Well, so you're saying since I didn't see any of those pages on his site that I should reach out to him. Maybe I will. Maybe I will.
Sure.
It can't hurt to see what he says. I mean, again, I've always enjoyed plot holes, and I think every once in a while I've seen him have a page or 2 up there. So he's got to have a few in reserve. So
to
I'll
your
try.
point, he's got his retirement, pool of pages, and maybe there's a couple plot hole retirement pieces too. So
Mhm.
if nothing else, you'll know that he's holding on to some good ones that maybe one day he'll be willing to part with.
Yeah. All right. But honestly, I've been wanting to get him back on the show because I haven't had him on the channel since like last December, so it's kind of overdue. So yeah, I'll reach out to him tomorrow. I'll let you know if I work something out with him, Steve.
Sure. A funny story, one of the times that you had him on, I think it was to announce that he was doing the commissions,
Uh-huh.
and he was kind of talking about his philosophy on selling art and maintaining relationships with good clients, and I forget how he worded it, but kind of suggesting that some clients are um, not big spenders. I forget exactly how he worded it, but I was watching the CAF live in the family room on the TV, and my wife was in the kitchen. And when he was saying that, my wife chimes in from the other room, "He better not be talking about you." And as soon as she said that, Sean's like, "Hey," and I see Steve Mussolino's in the crowd. And I just started laughing.
I'm sure he was not talking about you, but
No,
yeah,
not at all.
no. Well, again, he's a smart guy because by selling things like that, he's able to kind of establish a market, by not dumping everything out there. I mean, he's wise beyond his years to have done that. If only the veterans, the people who were doing comics in the Silver Age. I mean, you look at Bob Layton; he was selling Iron Man covers for $500. What would they be? What are they at today? And
Right.
that was just the way. And a lot of those guys sold things like covers early because they were the easier thing to sell than a bunch of interior pages. So they sold the things that would have been, could have been worth 50, 60, $70,000 today. I mean, early Bob Layton Iron Man. I don't even know what those covers would go for, but they're a lot, and it's just, it is what it is. So yeah, I think we're seeing more artists follow, Sean's model. At least if they work with the right reps, you'd think that they would tell them, they'd try to, hold on to some stuff. If we have enough to sell, it's best to hold on to a few complete issues here or there. We don't, as collectors, we can be disappointed about that, but
Right.
yeah.
But you know what? I would rather pay it to the artist directly than kind of after the fact through a rep or a dealer, or not a rep, but a dealer or a private collection. So if I'm paying, quote, through the nose to an artist, you know what? More power to you.
Very true. So we have two more pieces to look at. I think these are, two special pieces. So we have one more piece by Sean. This is the cover to Tokyo Ghost 2. And it's
Correct.
beautiful, man. Wow.
This one was part of that 3-piece first initial purchase.
Really?
Yeah. So I kind of, I want to say I dove head first, right, into the deep
Yeah,
end.
you really did. Here I was thinking they were just 3 interiors. So no, you picked up a cover on top of everything else. That's I wouldn't say that's unheard of, but that's not the way most collectors start their journey. So was this kind of, did you know going in that you wanted to pick up a cover, and or was it
No,
something that maybe with the Jason kind of curatorial approach, kind of influence that, or did it just happen while you were there and you're looking at it?
at the time that I was at Jason's, the first go around, this book hadn't come out yet. So the only artwork that Jason had was from Chrononauts.
Hmm.
And I liked the art, but nothing really spoke to me. In the time between me going there the first time and that Amy Reeder cover kind of slipping through my fingers, um, Sean started posting on Twitter kind of work in progress pics, and this was one of them. And as soon as I saw this, I immediately reached out to Jason and said, "I want this." And this became part of the 3-piece um, the 3-piece deal. Um, Subsequent to me paying for it and then going to pick it up, the day that I picked it up, Jason asked me if I really wanted it because apparently Scott Williams had expressed interest and wanted to buy it himself. So I kind of got Scott Williams' thumb of approval on like 4 of tonight's 16 pieces.
You did. I mean that this and the Zaffinos. That's funny. So you
And when I,
basically said, no, I do want to keep it. Sorry,
yeah,
sorry, Mr. Williams.
yeah, maybe Jason thought that that kind of tidbit of information would dissuade me from wanting it even more. But I did end up finding an exchange between Scott and Sean on Twitter that I kind of screen captured, and it's on the CAF with the image. I subsequently DM'd with Scott and asked him what drew him to the piece, and he said he really liked the brushwork, this brush, especially the dry brush. And he doesn't really collect modern stuff, but he really liked this piece.
Oh, I see. I see. You do have the Twitter exchange.
The
That's great. Well,
dirt.
Scott, obviously he has an amazing art collection as well, and we only get to see just the things he chooses to show us. But yeah, he's with all those years in the business and the all the artwork that's gone through his hands. Yeah, he's also has an amazing art collection. So he's definitely somebody I'd love to get to OAX one day, just to, even if he didn't want to be an artist, I'd love to have him as a collector in the room. It'd just be really fun to see someone who's in the business but is also a heavy art collector. Like he comes to mind. Phil Hester comes to mind. I mean, those guys. Phil's on CAF, and he's got like over 2,000 pieces in his CAF gallery. So yeah, those are the kind of people I'd be happy if they were just walking the floor. Even if they didn't want to come as a guest, come in, or come as an exhibitor, come as an attendee, and just appreciate the show. That would be pretty neat.
It's amazing not only the depth of their collections, but the depth of knowledge. They retain all this like legacy historical information about the hobby that it's almost like I would just want to sit at their feet and let them just talk about the good old days.
Oh yeah, no, I've learned a lot. Getting to spend some screen time with them. Scott was one of my more fun interviews to do. He was awesome, and and again, you could have him on, once a year, and I could do like the 30 years worth of shows, and we'd still probably have everything, each one be unique and just as interesting. So we are down to the last piece, and I already showed it once, unfortunately.
Sure.
But we were talking about libraries earlier, and we kind of get that in this one. But this thing's just unbelievable. the amount of detail in this piece, and and the lighting's fantastic. On this, when you look at the say Batman's cape there as it gets into the blinds, there's no outline for the figure. The lighting in the room is really defining things, and I would have to imagine not only this one has to be artistic and storytelling that was like the thing that drove you to pick this up. But you tell me.
It's pure magic. It harkens to Batman Year One. It harkens to Toth. When I first saw his work come out, I think it was like Batman 66. I wanted a piece of artwork from him, but everything got snatched up and I couldn't grab anything. So at that point, I followed him on social media. I just made it a point that whenever he was going to do something, whatever it was, didn't necessarily have to be Batman, I wanted a piece of it. So when he posted, again, a work in progress pic on Twitter, I DM'd him, and we had maybe like a 3-month exchange conversation about this piece where he eventually said it was mine. Couldn't be happier. I mean, it checks so many boxes. I might not ever own a Mazzucchelli Batman piece, but this comes damn near close. And it's everything you just said. It's the storytelling, it's the artwork, it's the perspective, it's the way he decided to, you could have taken a camera angle from any part of this room, but this was the most dynamic and the most dramatic, and the execution is flawless.
Agreed. I mean, the perspective is perfect, and that's what makes the piece all the more appealing, I think, is that they're so attentive, and it doesn't feel made up, right? I mean, it feels realistic. The width of light in the between the blinds on the floor in the for the shadows, it's wider than than what we see in the angle area. All of that it just makes this piece so interesting. I mean, you keep your eye moves throughout the whole thing, right? It's edge to edge, the imagery on this thing, and wow. I mean, when I went to your CAF, this was the image that really stuck with me, and when I was thinking about your collection for whatever reason, even though there was a lot of Sean Gordon Murphy artwork, right? This one just kind of takes your breath away. It's so well executed.
And it was a pretty neat story too. So it was a great issue. That's the other thing with respect to the art that I collect. I have to really love the book.
Mm-hmm.
I can appreciate the art, but if I appreciate the art and then I don't like the story, I have to read the story before I buy the art, for better or worse. And I really enjoyed the story.
Now, as number one Marvel fan wanted to know, they're assuming that this is framed?
No, it's not framed. And I'll tell you why. So the very first 3 pieces that I ever got, which we've all looked at, are framed. The 2 Batman from White Knight, framed, and the Rocket Girl, also framed. Everything else is in a portfolio. I really, really love opening up a portfolio and looking at a piece of art that I haven't looked at in a while and getting that wow moment, which you just don't get when it's framed.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I always feel like once I frame it, you're right. There is something a little bit lost from that. I mean, you get to see it every day, right? But there's something uniquely fulfilling to sit down with a portfolio and just flip through it, right? I mean, however you chose to organize it in the first place, and coming across it, getting to pull it out and actually touch the paper again. Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's very true.
And yes, Rick, it's a Tom King written.
Yeah, I was just double checking that myself. I was doing a Google search. Yes, Tom King from 2016. Now, and when you looked at the book, I mean, was this the only page that would have worked for you? I mean, was there like a fallback option? Do you sometimes have that when you're going after a page from a storyline that you really like?
that book was just a cornucopia of great pieces. There were probably another 2 or 3 that I would have been happy with. But this one was head and shoulders above all else. They did do an art drop for this issue, but they only included maybe like 5 pages out of the book, and they all sold. There's a couple of them on CAF, I think, all owned by the same CAF member. And I've reached out to Jorge just to confirm, because Kent Mansley was interested at one point about pages of his, and he does have more from this issue, but I don't think he's ready to sell them yet.
Well, yeah, he's probably wise to hold on to it for a little longer.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the issue won an Eisner Award for it was like a Batman Annual #4. So I'm not sure what category, but it definitely won an Eisner.
Wow. Well, I'm actually searching around, looking at his work on CAF right now. Yeah, I wasn't. I know I've seen his work before, but you probably have the most striking piece in all of CAF right now. There's 165 pieces of his art there, but yeah, wow, very, very nice. So goodness,
And a super nice guy.
Yeah, now you emailed with him. Did you meet him in person?
Every time I go to New York City Comic Con, I want to meet him. Every time I walk by his booth, he's not there.
Yep, I understand that. Well, there's a lot of artists that aren't at their table when New York Comic Con is going on. It seems like, at least that's what I heard last year. But it happens, right? So many of the artists that go there are already, they have panels to do or signings to do, and so Artist Alley can be like 2/3 full most of the show, because 1/3 of the artists are tied up doing other things at that place. I think a lot of business gets done at New York Comic Con.
I'm sure. And now, if you look in that Google Drive folder, there is one more image that's not numbered.
Oh,
that's not on my CAF. I just put it in there.
Oh, let me see. Because I wasn't in the Google Drive, but I can go over there right now. Let's see.
If we have a little bit more time.
Yeah. No, I can. I just have to get over there to find it. Here we go. It's not numbered. Oh, okay. We can download it.
Another thing about my collection, I typically try and get 2 examples from an artist. So this one scratches the Tim Sale itch.
I will say that your scans are bigger than most of the scans I ever get. Where's that one? Okay, here it is.
Again, we blame Jason for that recommendation to grab that 40% off scanner.
Right, because this file is 137 megabyte. So let's see, it's just coming in here. There we go. So what do we got? Batman Dark Victory, issue 9, page 20. Wow. Is this a recent pickup?
This was relatively recent. Again, Kent Mansley messages me out of the blue that there was a Long Halloween page that was on eBay that had sold for something ridiculous. And we kind of dreamed about if it had only been us, because the price point was so low. And could it really have sold for that much? And we just kind of daydreamed on WhatsApp for a little bit about this page. And then it showed up on CAF. Mm-hmm. So I reached out to the CAF member and just to confirm, like, did you really get that Long Halloween page for that little on eBay? And he said no, he had to pay more. It was posted on eBay by mistake. And we got to chatting, and we talked about Dark Victory and our love of Dark Victory. Okay. This page had been posted by a CAF member and was marked as on hold. And it never hurts to ask. I reached out to him, and it had been on hold for a long time. So I'm thinking, is it really on hold? So I just reached out, appreciate the page. If it's on hold, great. But if it's not, I'd be interested. And now here's where it gets weird, because this was in June or July. And the owner on CAF was in France. And he told me it was not on hold, but then it was for sale, but then it wasn't for sale, and then it was back for sale. But the only reason he agreed to sell it to me is because my wife works for a pharmaceutical company that's headquartered in Paris, and she had a business trip. So I was going to tag along, and this gentleman was willing to sell it only because he didn't want to be bothered with the shipping. So now I'm on a quest to go to France to pick up artwork, but he wanted the money paid to him, and for whatever reason, the wire wouldn't go through. So my buddy and fellow CAF member Jeffrey, who is in France, come to find out his parents live in the same small village as this CAF member, and he not only kind of saved the day by allowing me to wire him the money, because for whatever reason the wire went to him just fine, but it wouldn't go to the actual seller. And then he wired the money from his account to the seller's account, but he also picked it up for me and met me in Paris to hand deliver it to me.
So that was a good trip. That that worked out really great.
It was probably one of the best trips of my life. Got to meet a fellow CAF member, got to pick up art, got to go to the gallery and see Kim Jung-ji's last performance before he passed away. It was a lot of great moments on that trip, and this piece of art to show for it. I mean, the depth on that one panel where they're on top of the building looking down, and the blacks are so dark. It's not the scan, it's the inks. They're just impeccable.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love Cape, and the lighting in the front of the lack of lighting in the front of the mansion. I mean, it's wonderful. And that was a good story. Yeah, like everybody just mentioned, lots of moving parts to make that work. Yeah. Yeah, international sales can be tough sometimes. I can understand and sympathize with sellers not wanting to be bothered with shipping internationally. I mean, I had shipped something. It was like 3 weeks ago, and it literally took almost 2 weeks to get there. It was the first time I have ever been called, and I shipped it UPS, signature required, and like a week after I shipped it, I got a call from UPS wanting to confirm the mailing address, which I did, and then they asked for their cell phone number, which was a part of me. Even when I made the order, when I put it in, it was there. So I gave them that and the email address, and it still took another 2 weeks for them to get it. And when I got it, I said, I asked the guy, did I write the mailing address wrong? Because I could see that, right? International, postal addresses can get a little confusing. And he's like, no, it was perfect. I have no idea why and what and where, but it was a big shit. It was for me, it was a large order, and to just sit there in limbo for 2 weeks is tough. So I
So
don't.
Was it customs?
It was, well, no, it wasn't sitting in customs. It was somehow the UPS were claiming they couldn't deliver it, and so then they just put it on a shelf, and he had to pay something from customs, but that wasn't the issue. He said somehow they just that was a tough one, having that happen. I mean, but I once shipped something to Texas, so not really far from here, and it sat at this one whatever holding facility for 12 days. So I've had the same thing happen here in the US in the last 6 months, and that's a nail biter too. It's like, you're sitting there thinking, did it fall behind a shelf somewhere because it's flat, and you just start panicking, and there's nothing you can do. There's nobody you can call. So anyway, but no, this turned out great, and it's a wonderful piece of art, obviously, and an interesting path to making its way to you. But was was the Kim show? Was that at like Daniel Megan's gallery?
Correct.
Yeah. They I know they repped him for like the last 5 or 6 years of his life. I know some people who got some nice commissions and pieces from him through that gallery. I regret never pulling the trigger during that time.
All the pieces that they had in the gallery, I got there maybe 3 hours early, sat outside in the rain, was the first person to walk in, got to literally sit at his feet while he demoed, and went the day before to look at the gallery pieces, and they were all so erotic. I couldn't pull the trigger on any of them. They were just not something that I could put in a portfolio, let alone hang in a house.
I know. Well, that's the thing. The few commission pieces that I saw that came out of gallery, the Daniel Megan's gallery, was they were erotic, but they were gorgeous. I mean,
Yes.
Unbelievable. But I remember even one guy showed me a piece that he got, and I looked at it, I'm just like, I couldn't own that. It's as awesome as it is. It's like that would be a piece that I would never be attached to. It'd be cool to own, be able to say I've got one. I got a commission from Kim, right? I mean, how cool would it be able to say that actually happened? But the imagery, and I didn't tell the collector that, but it was just like looking at him like, no, that's just not for me. But
Yeah. And
anyway, wow, great.
My French friend who helped me out with that Dark Victory ended up getting a piece from that gallery, which was kind of a family-friendly piece. And not only is it a great piece, but there's actually like a 5-hour video of him actually drawing it. So he lucked out twice over.
Dang. That would be pretty awesome to have. I mean, I could see if I put it in my CAF, I'd find a way to embed that video in the description somehow, so people could see it. I mean, a lot of people would probably appreciate that. Hey, well, it's after 11 here. And,
I was worried I wouldn't have enough to say, and that my pieces would be redundant and derivative, and time still flew by.
Yeah, and we talked about insurance too, something that we've never talked about here on the channel. So we got to hit on a lot of good topics tonight, Steve. But no, this was a lot of fun. I mean, I know we talked about doing this. Gosh, I think it was back after Comic Art Live. So I'm glad we were able to fit this into the schedules here before. Things are going to get hectic around here. I'm going to Hawaii in a couple weeks with the families so I won't be doing interviews for a couple weeks. But
and you don't have anything lined up? Or
no, I've got Casper, I think, is going to step in and do the next 2 Tuesdays of interviews, and they were both friends of his, so it worked out kind of good that just in the scheduling of things, they were people that he's very familiar with to talk to. So it'll be different, definitely different. But yeah, I'll be enjoying. I'll come back with a tan, everybody. But no artwork. I have no. Although I say that, and I met. I always forget there's a collector. Well, I'm going to be meeting Jordan Joannan because he actually helped set up the place we're staying at. I've never met him in person. I've been on camera with him 15 or 20 times in the last 3.5 years. So I'm sure we'll go out for a drink. And I actually had lunch with somebody while I was at San Diego who lives in Hawaii, and I didn't know that, who said I should give them a call when I get there. So yeah, maybe I might come back with something now. You never know. You should
sort the CAF members by state and see who's in Hawaii. There's probably more than you think.
Probably. That's one thing that we have talked about is that when because you can pick country, but we should make it such that when you pick the U.S., that a second drop menu appears or something where you can pick state as well. Because that's something that it makes sense to do that, especially if you were trying to arrange a meetup, at somebody's house.
Sure.
It's so much easier if you just say, "Show me everybody who's in New Jersey." Then you can just go through CAF and email everybody and just say, if you're open this weekend, here's the place. So yeah, I think that's something we need to add to CAF in the future.
Not to take people out of the CAF ecosystem, but if there were a way to kind of do that, but also link it to the members like WhatsApp or something, so you could create kind of a group chat scenario, or just do that within CAF where you could just kind of message people in real time.
Right. Well, that is something that we are looking into with the app. I can tell you that. So it's not using.
I had no doubt you got it all covered.
Yeah, the developer that we're working with has like their own kind of chat application. So we were, and they said it would be very easy to kind of integrate that into the app. And so it's certainly not a version 1 thing. It may not even be a version 2 thing, but we know that it's available. And I think that it certainly makes a lot of sense to do that, because the more I look at it, the more social I realize CAF is, whereas I never really saw it that way entirely as a website. But once it's on your phone, you wish those things were there if they're not there. So yeah, I think it will happen. It will definitely happen. Maybe not in 2024, but certainly soon thereafter. I think because we're going to work on push notifications as the version 2 kind of release. We're not. I want to get it out there. I could wait another 4 months, to just get it perfect. But I feel like V1 will be good. V2 will be even better, and it'll just keep adding on after that. But listen, thank you for doing this. I appreciate everybody in the chat hanging out with us for a few hours. If anybody does want to get that insurance information, shoot me an email, bill@comicartfans.com, and I will get you the name of the company that I got my policy through, and you'll have to let me know how it works out. So, Steve, thank you. It's a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what you pick up next, because I know it'll be an impressive piece. That's for sure.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your time. Thanks everyone for hanging out.
All right, everybody. You have a wonderful evening, and I will be back tomorrow night with Anthony Snyder doing an art drop from things he picked up at San Diego. So I think he's going to have like 60 pieces of art that are new to market. And I hate to say it, there's actually a piece of art that I wouldn't mind having myself in this set. Strangely enough, it's a strip, and it's dated for my birthday. But the worst thing is I already have one from the same strip from my birthday. So
Wow.
I may end up having to pass that up. But it was just so funny to see it. It's like, you don't miss those things. So I'm gonna have to like compare it and see if maybe I should upgrade and sell the other one. We'll see. But again, thanks, Steve. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow night. Have a wonderful